Science and Sports. In this episode, I'm talking to Robbie Sciochetti. He runs a hockey comp in Nova Scotia, Canada, that has over 1,000 kids participating. Today, we are talking about on-ice skill development in those camps, the differences in junior hockey development in Europe and North America, and burnouts in youth hockey. Have fun and enjoy. This podcast is presented by Like Me, your partner for social media and online marketing from Weiden, and Praxis im Salzhaus, your contact for physiotherapy and health in Altenstadt. Thanks for having time, Robbie. It's a pleasure to have you on. Can you give me a little introduction about yourself and maybe your background?
Yeah, so my name's Robbie Sciochetti. I'm part of Bedford Minor Hockey's Development Association right now. Also the head of their video coaching. So we have analyst time with teams that we're doing video coaching with. Bit of my background is I stopped playing hockey at the U18 major level, which is in Nova Scotia, the highest for the U18 players around. Um, then I kind of took a few years off hockey, kind of had to get my head back into it. Um, then I had the opportunity to go work with a good friend who actually ended up playing pro over in Finland. And that's kind of my passion that got me back into the sport. Um, in between that, I was very, very into weightlifting. I was in school for human applied nutrition and kinesiology. So I decided to take a role as a strength coach under a hockey program in Nova Scotia here. So, and then I met a few guys from Germany. So, for example, like Oliver Schmidt would have been, and he's one of my main clients right now for training still.
Sounds good. You mentioned earlier before we started the recording that you're doing on-ice skill development for camps. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so under our hockey association here in Bedford, we have, I think the number is around 1,400 kids total at the moment under our registration. So we have private ice booked 5 hours a week. So what that would include is there's six coaches on the ice. We bring in two teams and we have six different stations. So all six different stations they're all different skill stations.
Mhm.
So one week we might focus on shooting. The next week we might focus on read and reaction. Week after that we might focus on angles. So it all comes down to um, just time. Again, trying to get the ice time to do it, but working with so many kids is definitely tough to produce like a almost like a perfect scenario for a one-on-one skill development. So we're trying to get the kids as many reps as possible when we're
Mhm.
doing things like that. We also do programs in the mornings, which offers smaller group training. So we have a max of like 12 kids on the ice. So that definitely gives them some more private time with coaches
So that
through
ensures
our
that each
association.
player gets an individual attention, right?
Yeah, there and even the thing is like when we're doing the two teams on the ice and the six stations,
Hmm.
there's only groups of five. So that way we're able to pull, I think we have around 10 minutes a station. So that way we're able to pull the kids aside more often and actually talk to them and give them feedback.
Yeah.
Um, so again, I've noticed a lot of things, even when we're doing our video sessions, we can relate doing to these skill drills and then we can show them in the video of where they could use this skill.
What are the biggest challenges when you work with that large number of kids?
Definitely one of the biggest things is, as you said before, is trying to focus on one-on-one skill development a lot of the time because sometimes it feels a little rushed, but at the end of the day, it's the kids are still getting plenty of reps. Um, then I guess trying to personalize a program per kid would be difficult through association, which we don't do. It's more generic skill development where it's like, hey, here's our six set drills today. This is what we're doing. So
Hmm.
it definitely gets a little difficult to keep on top of it. I mean, um, kids are kids, right? At the end of the day, some of them want to put the full effort in, and some of them there to have fun, right?
Yeah.
So that can be a difficult thing too, because then as a coach, you're not sure which kid you want to not play favoritism to, but which kid you know or trying to read that really wants to learn from you, and the other kid who just wants to be there and have fun.
Yeah.
So
Or
that definitely gets
they have to
difficult.
be there. There was a
Ex-
thing what I noticed when I was under nine coach in Rosenheim that some kids just were here because the parents told them to go or to do something. So they have like time off a couple of hours.
yeah, we have a lot of that here as well. It's not so obvious during the wintertime But
Yeah,
definitely during our summer programs, you can definitely tell when there's kids that aren't invested in being there. I mean, again,
yeah,
it
for
is tough
sure.
when you're so young. Um, and the big thing too in North America is a lot of parents think their kids are going further than they should,
Hmm.
which can get really difficult to deal with, and it's hard to have those conversations with people, obviously. Um, so that's another point behind it.
You just mentioned that you're video coaching those camps as well, right?
Yeah, so we take video from the team's games, and then we break it down, and then we coach them through that as well.
How old are the kids? So is there an age where they're too young to get video coached or
We don't do U9, so we start at U11 with our video coaching, and then we go all the way to U18.
okay? Because I was just thinking that we never did video coaching with under nines, but
Yeah,
I think we also started at under 11s. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, in my opinion, the top end players of U9 could definitely benefit from seeing themselves on video
Hmm.
because I know a few that I work with here privately. There's two kids especially that are super skilled hockey players, but it's like, hey, we already know how to do this kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but then I feel like because they're always watching NHL videos and they're always comparing stuff they're doing on the ice to these, high caliber players like McDavid, McKinnon, Crosby, guys like that, which is
Yeah.
tough because when a kid's, 7, 8, and 9 years old, it's you don't want to tell them, hey, you're not quite at that level yet,
Yeah.
but you kind of have to let them go. So I think they would benefit from doing video and especially seeing how they would compare on the ice to even what stuff they're watching.
But do you think they have the right attention span already at that age to really watch it and analyze it?
There's a few kids that I've worked with that would absolutely benefit from doing it because even when I'm coaching them, they're very attentive and they're always like giving me feedback too as well to, hey, like, did I do this right? Hey, what
Hmm.
can I do better? And especially for me hearing that from an 8-year old, like that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, for sure.
So, right, like that's stuff we wouldn't hear from the U18 major guys here a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, I think it would take a certain group to do it for an attention thing. And I think you could maybe hold them to like a 15 or 20 minute session of video, but no longer.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed that here as well, working with the pros, that even if the video here is too long, that the attention span like goes down obviously. But now we're working with pros and adults, and even for kids, then on the other hand, it should be not too long, or
No.
yeah. If we go a step back again on the skill development on the ice, how do you and your coaches measure success in the drills or in the different age groups?
So that's something we're kind of still implementing within our program. I think more or less from my personal standpoint to what I would like to see for measuring success is how fast the kids can adapt the drill. So we run, obviously, like I said, sometimes we change week by week, but lately we've been running the same drills for about 2 weeks straight. So when
Hmm.
you get the team through the second time in the second week, it's always nice to see their progression and how quickly they're picking up the skill without having to be reminded.
Yeah,
So that's just something like with working with so many kids, like all the time, right? It gets hard to keep track, but once you get them noticed and you keep an eye on it, then the kids are always giving you feedback as well. Oh, hey, I remember doing this, and it's like, all right, go ahead and do it. Let me see it, and then they're just hitting it perfect almost every time. So
so do you only have skill groups on the ice, or how do you balance it with fun for the kids?
fun, yeah. I mean, that's a very good question. We're very hockey oriented over here in North America,
Hmm.
and especially during the winter time. There's not too much I can say on it. It's nothing against the kids. I think it's more on the parent side where they're very pushy, just to have their kids learning all these skills.
Okay, that's an interesting one because over here it always have to begin with a game. Could
Yeah,
be just from goal line to goal line, like a catching game, or the coaches throw the kids with pylons or whatever.
yeah,
So that's I think a big difference in the European against the North American method.
yeah. Like we're pretty straight on it. Like we'll go on the ice and kids will skate around for 2 or 3 minutes, and then we're blowing the whistle. Lead instructor will end up demoing all 5 or 6 drills, and then we split them up and they're right into it for the hour and a bit.
But could it be the reason that due to high number of kids or young players you have over there, that it's more competitive even in the younger ages?
I would say yes. This way, the kids are getting dialed in right away. It's not like I mean, hockey's a fun sport at the end of the day, but they're learning more skill set. They're learning how to prepare themselves better before the games.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of my belief and beyond it is yes, they still need to have fun, but we have a lot of time for them to have fun. So like in our spring development and our summer development camps, there's a lot of times we do play games with them or small area games.
Yeah,
But again, our small area games are still competitive,
yeah.
but it's fun to them.
You have been to Germany before or to Europe. What what is for you a big cultural difference between the junior hockey programs in Europe and in North America?
I would just say the sheer numbers in the drive. Like I know Europe's definitely a lot bigger in different sports as well, just because of the backgrounds and history. We have, I mean, out of 1,400 kids, we probably have at least like I'd say 300 U9 players,
Okay,
right? So it's definitely a big number. Like the sheer difference, I think, in the junior programs would probably just be the development side of it. Like we have a lot more ice time available to us as well. Um, and I'm not sure about your guys' staffing to how many guys would come back after even playing, in the Dell or Dell 2 or Oberliga to go coach in their local associations.
yeah,
So I think that's definitely a big thing. Like we have a lot of young guys on staff with us. We have 6 guys under the age of 35 who are on our staff right now.
okay. But it's like you said, a camp, right? How is it
Yeah.
compared to a normal team, like a youth team over there? Is the number also that high for the player
For
count?
our youth team, so I know our U9s right now we have 4 advancing teams, so that would be like your AAA level. And then I think we have 3 or 4 intermediate teams, and then we have 3 or 4 novice teams as well.
Okay.
So it's definitely, I think the sheer number of things, and then again, as we said, the kids are on the ice quite a bit, so they're on the ice all year round.
Yeah, because I noticed that obviously the team I'm referring is relatively close to Munich. It's not Munich, the youth team, but it's relatively close. And
Yeah,
due to the distance to the city, they have a huge number of kids in the younger ages. But
yeah,
then they get picked up by better teams across Germany. Sorry.
yeah,
Um, and then for other teams, they have basically like 10 to 12 kids in the under 9 year. So it's
yeah,
pretty hard to really work with them if they want to, but then for the teams where they don't get a lot of kids, they most of the times don't have the resources.
yeah. That would be true because all the better kids, I put that in quotes, would want
Hmm.
to go to the teams that have more success behind them
Yeah,
to get development, right? So I mean, I'm not with your guys' youth program. Are you guys running like does Munich have like a junior program for their kids?
Munich does. It's not under the Red Bull organization,
Yeah,
but they have from I think under 7 or under 9 up to under 20, I guess.
yeah,
And they work with them normally, but they just don't run under the big Red Bull team.
got you. So that would
How
be
is
like kind of a destination zone for the kids would want to go and play because of that.
I mean, for the teams that play, I think Munich is one of a couple of teams that don't have a first league under 20 team.
Yeah,
So, or under 17 team maybe as well. Don't quote me on that. I'm not
yeah,
100% sure. But a lot of kids go to Cologne or go to Berlin, go to Mannheim. A lot of kids also go to Salzburg now because of the academy they run there.
yeah,
So it's hard to keep the kids in a team or in a program if the first team isn't playing in a really good league and if there's
yeah.
no opportunity for the kids to move up and have a good development.
Got you. So I think that would probably be the main difference is what we're getting into is just the fact that you guys are more of like a club based system where
Yeah,
we're more of like I mean ours is a club but we're a minor hockey association so we pull from The one I work for is Bedford and Fall River, so that's why our numbers would be so big on that part. So it's like the kids can't leave their district here
Okay.
unless they're let go. So say I don't know how to maybe for example like Bayreuth to Nuremberg, like it's only like a 30-minute drive. It's not that far. So
Yeah.
like those two, and say if that was in Canada or North America, maybe those two places would be together as one association, right? The
Yeah.
kids can't go, they can't go from let's say number to Berlin to play.
Yeah.
Like we don't allow that here. So
Okay.
even once you get into the U18 major level, like the highest level here for U18, um, they have to stick in a certain zone as well.
Okay. That makes it probably a little easier.
Yeah. So
But I
that's
mean,
something I
I
think
I
it's
get
been
it.
here for a while. Yeah.
I get it some way because if a big club knocks on the door with a good program, a lot of money, and even some strength coaches or skill
Yeah.
coaches in the youth teams, then it's hard to say no if you really want to develop.
Oh no, I get that 100%. Yeah.
But on the other hand, I know a lot of coaches who are really, really good with kids and have a really good mindset and work hard and want to work with kids in like smaller clubs or smaller cities because they just have family there or whatever, and they do
Yeah.
a really good job, but they can't keep the kids there.
Yeah, because they all move out.
Yeah. So you know a little bit about the European style now. I mean, I can
Yeah.
only talk from my 4 years of being an under seven and under nine coach. We had, I think, two times off-season practice in the off-season, like dryland practice, and
Yeah.
during the season we had four times practice on the ice. I think a little over an
Yeah.
hour. And we did two times a little bit of, yeah, coordination ladder, some jumps, some small
Yeah.
games. How is it compared to, yeah, your routines with the kids?
So ours is complete like our summertime thing would be everyone together because we hold our tryouts in September, towards the middle of September to pick our teams.
Okay.
So that's how it would work over here. So once you're done your season in April, you're kind of you're not a free agent, but you technically are. So and then say if you played U11 double A your second year, and then you're moving up into U13 your year after, you have to wait until that trials process comes. So it's like the kids, the teams, the high end players are still sticking together mostly, but there's a lot of mixture between kids because some kids can develop like they can skyrocket in their development within that
Mm-hmm.
summer.
Yeah.
So our summer training a lot of time is it's a lot of it's private stuff. So there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of private coaches around that do private training in the summer, and it's basically up to the parent to hey like are we going to put our kid in soccer this summer, or dedicate them to a trainer, such as like there's JP McCallum here, which is Brad Marchand's trainer.
Yeah.
There's Chris Pierce who does. I think there's a lot of pro guys that work out with him as well. He's part of the Halifax Mooseheads here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, in the summertime, it's kind of a free for all if you want to say it that way. Kids are it's up to the parents to where they want to go and what they want to do.
Yeah.
Um, so, and then once you get into season, then it becomes more structured. As you said, they have 2 to 3 practices a week. They're playing 2 games a week. They're doing off ice training once or twice a week, and then they go from there. So,
So you have in the youth teams, let's talk under nine, for example,
yeah.
you have games on the weekends, or do you have like small tournaments like we do here?
Well, for our U9 here, so we do only do half ice games here in U9. So they're doing games the first part of the year. So from October until end of December, they're
Mm-hmm.
doing half ice games only between each other. So like Bedford versus Bedford thing.
Okay.
And then after the new year, so once we move into January to I believe end of March, they're going out to different organizations and playing those teams. And they have I
Okay.
think 2 games a week. But with the half ice games only, U9 there's certain leagues like private organizations here that have created full ice leagues, and then those kids are playing that Sunday nights as well. So
When you
there's a
when you
lot of
say
hockey going on.
When you say half ice games, you mean goal line to red line?
No, they literally have a set of boards. They push out onto the ice at the red line,
Hmm.
and they play red line to goal line on each side.
That's interesting because we have only tournaments at that age, and
Yeah,
they play like a small area game in one zone. Or let's say
yeah,
if they have a tournament, they play in both zones, and then they just switch the teams around so everyone plays everyone. And when they
yeah,
move up to under 11, they play the first period the same system, also like a small area game.
yeah,
Then the second period is goal line to red line, and then the third period is full ice.
yeah. So I think that's a major difference here, especially in the development, because we have at our U11 age, anywhere from the B level to the double A level,
Hmm.
which is our double A would be our highest in U11. They're playing full ice games with refs. They're playing 3 10-minute periods. So
Okay.
like it's a full coaching staff. There's going to be systems implemented from your coaches. Like that's where I think it becomes a little different here.
Yeah.
So like I definitely think in Europe, you guys moving into like a half ice game, even for second year U9s, for like the advancing, the higher the kids who already have the experience and know how to skate a little bit better, know how to move the puck a little bit better,
Hmm.
it would definitely improve their development because they're playing 3 on 3 and they're learning how to take their ice. They're learning how to make passes, right? They're learning how to do like certain moves on the ice.
But you know that the good guys or the good kids, they don't usually pass the puck too often for some instances.
Yeah, I know that I've seen that quite a bit
Yeah.
here as well. And it's still something we're trying to work on with a lot of them.
Yeah.
Some kids are better at it than others.
Yeah.
Um, it is going to take time because, as you said, yeah, it's the same thing. I think worldwide with that, the better kids are going to want to go and try to do everything themselves
Yeah.
when it comes to those small area games. But when you open it up to the bigger ice games here, that's when the difference really shows because yeah, the player's still very good, but he's not using his teammates, right? And obviously, we
Yeah.
know hockey is a passing game. You need
For
to pass
sure.
the puck, so it
Yeah.
gets a little different when the kids get faster and they're able to take the puck away from this kid and who in U9 was the best player, right?
Yeah.
So
I have one more big topic I want to talk to you about before we wrap
yeah,
this episode up. And I want to talk to you about the burnout, especially in youth hockey. You told me that you have, or it's obviously known that in North America, hockey is played all year round. How does it
yeah.
affect young players that are like physically and mentally seeing the ice
Um,
365 days a year?
Yeah, so I mean, my personal experience from seeing kids do this, and I've seen kids do it from the age of probably U11 all the way now into like going into U16, U18 level. Like they just don't have the passion and the drive for the game anymore.
Mhm.
It's very unfortunate, but because these kids are, they were basically the best player when they were younger. And then as they grow older, it's just that everyone else is caught up because they're actually taking time to rest. They're taking time to do something different, to think about nothing that's not hockey, right? Like here, if you wanted to, and there probably is people out there that do it here, but you could put your kid on, like you said, 365 days a year,
Yeah.
right? Like I've seen some kids in the summertime, and even this last summer, there was a kid who we were around with who was on the ice like 4 hours a day,
Mhm.
right? And that he was projected to make a better team than he did, and he ended up being cut because I think he was so tired during tryouts.
That's what I just wanted to talk to you about. Can you notice like warning signs?
For myself, I think it's more of the mental side of things.
Hmm.
They don't seem invested, right? They're doing all these programs. They're working out with multiple trainers in the summer, which again is can be confusing because then you're not following one program. I
Yeah.
think a lot of the thing is just exhaustion. When you're working with them, it just seems like the effort isn't there anymore.
Yeah.
It's like they want to push it and they want to be able to do it, and they're getting frustrated with themselves because they can't. But then you
Yeah.
realize, oh, they've already been on the ice for 3 hours.
Yeah.
So that
So
that gets a little. That's kind of a warning sign to me. And like I've talked to a couple kids before, even their parents is like, hey, like take a week off. Like you guys don't need to be on the ice 2 3 hours a day. Like you guys can lay back and just relax.
yeah.
He's not going to get any worse by taking a week off.
Over here we yeah, we encourage the young players to do multi-sport participation so that they, let's say in off-season, play soccer so they don't see
Yeah.
the ice all around. From your experience now, if you really have kids who are, let's say, working into a burnout, what are the long-term consequences of overtraining?
So, and again, I'll mention this as well that the kids that are going on the ice nonstop are also playing other sports as well. So
Okay.
it's they're doing way too much in the beginning of it. Um, for consequences, I think it's more on the person who's maybe or maybe not being forced to do this so much
Hmm.
that they're getting burnt out, and like I said, they're losing their passion, they're losing their drive to get better, right? Because to
Yeah,
them, it's just, oh, it's another day on the ice. They're doing the same repetitions, the same skills. They almost look robotic at the end of the day when you watch them in a game,
yeah,
right? They kind of have that they just look like they're a very good skills player, right? And they're not a very good hockey player, if that makes sense.
yeah, makes
So
total sense.
yeah, so that's kind of what sometimes you see it now. That's not too often, but there is a few kids that end up doing it like that, or even I don't even want to say kids. I want to say teenagers because that's probably where you would notice it more is once they hit like the U16 to U18 level.
Yeah. It's the thing is, it really, if they start too young with too much sport or one sport, let's say hockey in this instance, they
Yeah.
really have that short-term fatigue that turns into like, yeah, maybe stress.
So yeah, I think for the consequence part, it's more of a self-induced a thing to where they get burnt out in their time and they start to overthink it all
Yeah,
because they see players getting better than them who are doing less.
yeah.
So that I
You
think
have
that's
to
a
do
big
the
part
right
of it.
thing.
Yep, exactly right. And the thing is with that, and there's no proof behind it. This is just my guess. Is that that the kids are only skating, let's say that are going into the CHL level, like the major junior level here. So like the QMJHL and places like that. Like
Yeah,
those kids are probably only skating, you know, 3 times a week in the summer at their highest level and doing off ice training almost every day. So like we have like if you want to use that for example, we have like Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, like they have a really Drake Batherson. We have a really big group here of pro guys that skates from I'd say end of June until middle August, and those guys are only skating twice a week at the start of the summer,
yeah,
right? So it just shows you that even the guys at the highest level, guys who are still young playing in the NHL, like they only need to skate twice a week to kind of make them better or kind of refine their skills.
yeah. On the one hand,
So
it's, I think, a mental aspect, and on the other hand, it's the you work hard, and the other big component is the rest and recovery.
yeah, so that's definitely something that um, even in our private groups in the summertime, we definitely try to endorse that, and especially nutrition is a big thing. Like for me, especially being having a background in it, is telling kids, like, hey, if you have to be on the ice for 2 or 3 hours a day, you need to be getting the calories into you
Yeah,
to sustain your energy. And they kind of don't get that, right? They're like, oh, I'm just going to go have a cookie or
yeah, for
Gatorade. It's like,
sure.
well,
Yeah,
that's not. And I think that might be another part of their burnout as well, is that their body isn't getting enough nutrients, so they're not being able to think properly.
yeah.
So that's another huge thing.
For my last question, Robbie, I want to go back a little bit to the this in the junior development in Europe and NA. From your experience, what lessons do you think could each system learn from each other to improve the development of the young kids?
Yeah, so I think something that I think I stated here before, but something that Europe could definitely benefit from is definitely moving into a more um, competitive scene at the younger ages. Yes, I know hockey is primarily when you're young, it's about having fun, but being able to develop your guys younger to have that mindset going into it would be huge. So getting into like the more of the skill set drills at the U9 age, getting into the half ice games, right? Getting into almost team practices or skill practices with your team.
Yeah,
Um, for North America, I definitely think us having accessibility to ice every day of the year is tough. It's lovely. Don't get me wrong. It's definitely
yeah,
good. However, I think we could definitely take a step back when it comes to that stuff. Kids don't need to be on the ice every week of the summer, every day of the summer, right? Like that's something I think that we should incorporate more. Start pushing on people is, hey, go play another sport for 2 3 months once the season's done. Take a break from hockey,
Yeah.
right? Especially when you're younger, because it's so much different. It's so much harder on your body. So I think that's definitely something we in North America could start incorporating more. Is trying to endorse kids taking more time off hockey.
Okay. I think we could learn that we have a little bit more ice. It's like completely different, completely the opposite of what you just said.
Yeah,
But I think we could improve if we have a little bit more competition or a little bit more the drive to success and leave the not the fun away, but
yeah,
to have a good ratio of it.
definitely.
Now,
So yeah, I
Robbie,
think like you said again. Sorry about that, but yeah, just adding the fun into the game too as well. I think might help kids here too, instead of being so serious and being yelled at by coaches. So it's definitely
yeah,
something else.
yeah, that for sure is a big aspect.
Yeah,
Robbie, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you. I hope we can stay in touch and maybe have the opportunity to talk again in someday.
for sure. Yeah, it was
But
really good being on.
like I just said, I learned a lot from our conversation, and I'm happy if we can have a talk again in the future.
Yes, for sure. I appreciate it, and thank you very much for having me on. And we will definitely talk again in the future about more things.
I would love to.
Perfect.
Thank you, and bye bye.
See you.
That's it for this episode of Science and Sports. If you enjoyed my podcast, please subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Your feedback is very important to me, so I look forward to your ratings and comments on your favorite podcast platform. Feel free to share the podcast with friends, colleagues, and anyone interested in sports science, athletics, performance, and health. Together, we can inspire even more people about this exciting topic.